This is the Night Wolf howling at you, and today we've snuck into the turtle lair so we can use Donatello's portal to take us to Eternia, so we can look at the Turtles of Grayskull Casey Jones action figure, the one-man weapons rack. Casey Jones is actually one of my favorite characters from Ninja Turtles, so I'm looking forward to this one. Hopefully I won't be disappointed like I was with the Turtles Teela. On the back of the box, we see him inside Castle Grayskull defending the sorceress from Mousejaw and his Mousers. Which, once again, I will note they did not give us a whole heck of a lot of Mousers to go with him. And it would be kind of nice if they threw some extra Mousers in with some of the other deluxe figures. But anyway, back on Earth, Casey Jones fights baddies as a hockey-masked vigilante using whatever sports gear he can fit into his bag. Now that he's on Eternia, he loads up on Castle Grayskull's best battle equipment to join the fight against Krang and Skeletor. And of course we see the bag filled with stuff. And looks like the hockey stick is probably the only new bit of equipment in his bag. But also, as part of this wave, we of course get Teela, the shell-kicking warrior goddess, Michelangelo, heroic captain of Cowabunga, Casey Jones, the one-man weapons rack, and Skeletor, evil samurai of destruction. So let's open this sucker up. With Casey Jones, we do get his little informational sheet, which shows that his mask does in fact come off, as well as some of the other body parts, and of course he's got Man-at-Arms' little leg thing as a shin guard. We have the Turtles of Grayskull comic book, The Spirit of Grayshell. A really awful pun, but what do you expect from this line? We do get to see our turtles along with Teela and Man-at-Arms with the sorceress version of April O'Neil on the cover. When we open it up, we see the turtles are given some information about Castle Grayskull, and of course it seems that Raphael is a bit leery about walking into a castle with a giant skull as the front door, giving us what would be a normal reaction to seeing Castle Grayskull. Once inside, they are greeted with Casey Jones, or I should say by Casey Jones, where they learn that Jones had borrowed the turtle van, in order to follow them to their last mission. And he and April were caught up in the explosion of Krang's portal and teleported also to Eternia. Only this time they were dropped into some kind of pool of water, and when April came out, she had the powers of the sorceress. I'm assuming that this is some kind of reference to the Revelations cartoon where Teela had to go into the pool inside Castle Grayskull in order to gain the powers of the sorceress. Thus far, from what I've seen artwork-wise and previews of, I'm not that impressed with the April figure. Maybe I'll change my mind when I get her, which I'm assuming she'll be a Target figure and hopefully with the last parts needed for Medobato. They decide to take the turtles to the Dwell of Souls in order to show the turtles and Man-at-Arms and Teela what happened to He-Man, Moss-Man, and Ram-Man. The Dwell of Souls apparently is locked in the dungeon area, which, since the Dwell of Souls was the dungeon in the original Castle Grayskull playset, or at least what they called it, and also technically the moat around Castle Grayskull, the bottomless pit. But they decide they will meditate in order to try to get more information or whatever. However, April does get snagged by energy, water, whatever you want to call it, coming out of the Dwell of Souls as she tries to fly for the first time. And now that I think about it, they gave us a nice little picture of her booty there. There you go, guys. Our fan service from the Turtles of Grayskull. Raphael tries to grab her to pull her away from it and basically ends up being shocked. However, as it turns out, the weird thing coming out of there was actually the mental image of Splinter, this time now combined with elements of King Grayskull, in which case Michelangelo, in all of his intelligence, named him Splinter Skull, which I think is what the figure is actually called now. And yeah, I'm not too impressed with that name either. But he explains basically what they need to do in order to rescue He-Man, needing to get their hands on the Sword of Power. And they fly there in some kind of contraption that looks like the Dragon Walker, Wind Raider, and Roton had a baby. They get attacked by some kind of a storm. I think that's what... No. I guess they jump out onto this weird mountain thing. So they climb up the mountain where naturally it's Merman is the guardian here. I guess it is technically on the ocean, but it's like a towering island on the ocean. So Merman just doesn't seem like the best choice, to be honest, for that position. However, since he is the new deluxe figure coming out, that's why they have him there. They fight. Merman loses. No surprise there. However, Skeletor shows up. And with Skeletor is the mutated He-Man. As He-Man mutated and Leonardo armored head towards the sword, both of them grab at one time, causing a strange, not quite explosion that teleports all of them back to Castle Grayskull, except for Skeletor, of course, who is left behind. And He-Man is no longer mutated. The only explanation given, the power of Grayskull, which I would have thought that the way to fix that would have been for him to transform back into Prince Adam if He-Man was mutated, and then that might fix it, but that would be just my version of storytelling. But they couldn't do that anyway, because then you'd have April and Teela finding out, and Casey, I guess, the secret. Come to think of it, it looks like only the Turtles actually went to the island. And then we get the cross-sell on the back of the package again, where we see Michelangelo, the heroic captain of Cowabunga, Skeletor, the evil Lord of Destruction, evil samurai Lord of Destruction. God, I'm bad today. Teela, the shell-kicking warrior goddess, and Casey Jones, the one-man weapons rack. Since they're calling him the one-man weapons rack, let's actually take a look at his weapons first. And up front we have Casey Jones's golf bag, is what it usually is on Earth. Not really that this time. Not sure what it's supposed to be. It's got the two little peg holes so that it can fit on his back like the shell shield did, which of course line up with that. And go a bit cockeyed so that he has the going off to the side. He also has a handle on there that we can put in his hand. And for whatever reason, they decided to give him the shield slash slapping hand instead of another gripping hand, because, you know, why would he want to hold multiple weapons at one time? First up, we have his hockey stick O'Doom, where we got nice little spikes all over it. And that is really going to leave a mark if you hit somebody with it. I don't like that they molded it in this translucent green. Being that it is a hockey stick, I would have been perfectly fine with them molding it in a wood color. Also, it appears to be a goalie stick because it does have the thicker part at the end, which also makes sense since he does wear a goalie mask. He comes with a big old hammer of destruction, which we originally saw come with the Triple H figure from the first wave of the Masters of the WWE Universe. I have a review for that one up. Please feel free to watch it. And we'll shove that in his backpack. He comes with Krang's axe from the Turtles of Grayskull Crane figure. We know that because it's got the little plug-in there in the back so that you can swap out a hand, which we could do with Casey if we wanted. That almost hit me in the eye. Not that you're probably going to want to do that with him, but the option is there. Next up, we have one of the spears from Grayskull. Also came with King Randor and Whiplash, guards. And in this case, we do have a little spot where we can hold it on the side. You could theoretically put Casey's golf club on there too, but I'm not sure that's really going to be the best thing to do. We have a katana. Ironically, it does not come with Leonardo. Instead, he gets those giant ass swords that are supposed to be kind of like the power sword, but aren't really. And this also came with Jitsu, Ninjor, and Slamurai. And last but not least, we have a chopping hand. This did not come with Jitsu, but it does appear to be the same one that came with the Masters of the WWE Universe, Mr. T. It's also set up to represent, I'm assuming, a kind of baseball glove look, since sports. And obviously this would go on this hand, which once again would have probably been better with a gripping hand rather than the slapping hand, because I'm sure those fingers have gone from being splayed out like that to being kind of cockeyed like this inside there. But, you know, what can I say? Just take a quick look at his hockey mask here, which is definitely designed to look more like the mask that they gave Ram Man. Guess that's really all you can really say about it. However, unlike the original Ninja Turtle figures back in the 80s, we do get a face sculpt for Casey that is unmasked. And I think they did a really good job on this one. Not that there's anything that distinctive about Casey Jones that, you know, would tell you that that was him if you didn't already know. But that's besides the point in this case, because Casey Jones' general equipment and sports gear and mask is what lets you know who he is. Unlike, say, April O'Neil, who just wears a yellow jumpsuit in one version, a purple crop top in another, a yellow sports jersey in a third, and so on and so on. Now the fun part with this one, we're going to go ahead and try to play with the articulation while he's all equipped up, because this is Casey Jones and this is what he's known for. So expect to see lots of parts fall off while we do this. First up, we have the standard ball joint in the head. So we can spin it all the way around. He can look down, up, over, sideways. He can even look down at his nipple if he wants. His arm can go up, down, spin around, which of course now we will see it getting caught on his equipment, and that gives us a little bit of a twist. So when he's got his bag in place, the right arm does not make it all the way around without help. The left arm, on the other hand, does appear to be clear from the bag. However, he is wearing the shoulder pauldron, so even if we did want to try to spin it around, it's getting caught on that. We have the elbow joint. We get kind of a 90-degree, not quite 90-degree hinge. And of course, since it is a peg, we do get to swing it around if we want, giving us that really good high sticking ability with the hockey stick. We have the waist joint. His equipment does slide over the belt easy enough, so it does not interfere, which is good. Should probably take him off the stand before I do articulation on the legs. He can kick up about that far, which isn't much at all. He can kick back a far, which isn't that much at all, like the standard Masters of the Universe body. We have a knee joint with a roughly 90-degree bend, a little bit less to be perfectly honest. Although I think what attributes to that is the actual fact that the knee has this little lump here that kind of keeps them bent a little bit. And of course we can spin around at the knee because once again it is a peg since it is a single joint. And finally we have the rocker at the ankle, so we have a hinge up and down and a pin that spins us all around. To note, this green, I'm going to think at this moment that the green here is what the boot is sculpted in and the white is painted on as far as the shin goes, though the foot is molded in white plastic. I should have thought of that. Yep, it is molded in the green. I'm going to say that he is a figure that you are probably not going to get to stand on his own if he's fully decked out in his equipment. I mean, I guess we could do that theory right now. Or I could be wrong. Alright. It does appear as if I can get him to stand up on his own. So anyway, I would say that is our look at the Casey Jones figure for the Turtles of Grayskull. He's definitely one of the nicer Casey Jones figures we've gotten. Not that there's a lot of Casey Jones figures out there, technically. Definitely an improvement over the original one. I do think Super 7's Ninja Turtle Casey Jones does have the removable face mask, or at the very least, I think he has two or three different heads, if I remember correctly. And there's two versions of him because one's got the teal shirt and one's got the red shirt. And I think the heads that he comes with is masked, unmasked, and broken mask. But that might only be the second one that came out that has the broken masked one. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this line. I think this, like the Shredder, is a good figure to add to your collection, even if you just throw them with the Turtle collection. Yeah, some of the equipment's a bit off because it is, you know, medieval times kind of stuff with the battle axes and spears and stuff. But overall, this is a nice Casey Jones figure, period. So let me know in the comments if this is one of those figures that you want to go after, if you want it for your Turtle collection, or if you are collecting all the Turtles of Grayskull figures. And please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Peace and love.